Hello and welcome to the MYOB Greentree update for June 2019. So this is a fairly standard agenda, so I'll get straight into it. So this is around the 2019.3.0 release. I'm going to give an overview what's in that release. This is a fairly brief video, but I'll give you the highlights of what's in this release. And the standard feedback and questions. I think everybody knows my email address to contact me if you've got any questions on the back of this. So let's get into it. So 2019.3.0 was available on the 18th of June on the FTP. The release notes are also available, and if you haven't seen them yet or haven't had a chance, they're on campus and on the Salesforce knowledge base. So in both places. So the highlights of what's in this release. Query Designer. Single Touch Payroll, or STP, version 3. There's some bug fixes. These include, on the browser, there's what we're kind of calling a tablet mode for hybrid devices. I'll explain what that is and why. And there's some bug fixes in these areas. I'll let you read that for yourself. So, across the spectrum. So in 2019.3, we introduced Query Designer. Some partners were involved in the EAP program for this Query Designer, so they have a bit of a heads up as to what it is and how it works. So this is new. Rather than go through and do all this in one video, like I have done with other overviews, I've separated it out. So I will be doing a separate session to cover the Query Designer in a bit more detail. This will be coming out fairly shortly, hopefully within the next couple of days. Again, I'll put the post up on Salesforce when that's available. But in the meantime, in summary of what Query Designer is to create database queries using more of a drag and drop. You can use runtime variables, you can have parameters, security, you can export the data. You can also use the query in ODBC. But again, that'll all be shown in the subsequent separate video I'll do for Query Designer. And the queries can be exported and imported, similar to ANA rules and workflow desks and Windows Designer. So in other words, you can do all the grunt work, so to speak, to put a term on it in a test system or even a demo system if you're putting something together, and then simply export it and import it into a live system. It could be summed up as an enhancement to jQuery and Explorer, but please note, these are not being removed. Somebody asked that before while we were doing our EAP, so I thought I'd just reiterate it. jQuery and Explorer will remain as they are. So this is another tool. STP version 3 or release 3. So I'm going to do a separate video on this. Sounds like I'm doing a get out of jail on all these. Mainly because this overview of 2019.3 will be viewed by lots of different partners across the range. So STP only relates to Australian payroll. So I'll do that in a separate session, cover that in a bit more detail. The release notes covers a lot of that in detail, but I'll do a separate video and put that up. Again, I'm aiming to do that as soon as possible. It should be done within the next few days. We'll cover that in detail and we'll talk about the dates. I've talked about there. The release or version 3 is applicable from September 2019, but we'll talk about all that cutover, etc. in the separate video. But it's just to highlight that that's in this release of Greentree. Okay, so some of the other things that are coming up in 2019.3. Query Designer is obviously a big one, as well as STP version 3. So here's some of the other bits we've introduced. So there's some enhancement around the jQuery security.
So as you'll see there, there's an option. We're all used to that HR preferences option that says get my words out, show HR data in Explorer and jQuery. You'll notice the wording of that has changed. So my wording there is you cannot create, import, view, or run jQuery on an HR class. Test company. So we've added some functionality around test companies. So in the general system preferences, there's a new tab. As you'll see in the screenshot there, funnily enough, it's called test system. So there's an option to say, is a test system? This creates a setting in the ini file, as I've put down there, says in a test system equals true. When that is a test system, is set to true in the general system preferences system tab. Oh God, lots of words there. So the caveat on all that, or the word of warning on all that, is because it's creating a setting in the ini file, be careful then if you're copying ini files around. So just rolling on with that test system, just to cover the other points there, they're reasonably self-explanatory, and the release notes cover this. Once you've set that as a test system, you can prevent all the task queues starting up automatically, which is obviously a big condition as to when you're creating a test system, because you've got lots of queues running, and it can be firing up a whole lot of tasks such as your online backup, etc., etc. So you would set that, start it up in single user, set those on, do not create the task queues, and all emails get sent to one address. So again, I remember previously seeing this as well, is that emails would be firing all over the place. So now you can set emails to go to a specific address rather than being directed around to customers, suppliers, etc. And the other thing that happens is the words test gets inserted into the title bar. So that's another indication that you're in a test system. Again, all those details are in the release notes. Okay, whoops, let's just go back a step there. So browser. So we've had some various issues using browser on hybrid devices. The list of issues that come up has been varied in terms of display, getting error messages. The unexpected error is a message that quite often pops up, whereas the browser has been run fine in other circumstances. So what we've done is we've created an additional, I put command/parameter there, to add to the URL, which effectively disables the keyboard. And the device can be used as a touchscreen only device. So what that means is, so the URL changes. So there's an example. This is my browser system that I run internally. So, but it's just an example of a URL. So you'll notice there, so it's kind of a before and after, but it's kind of not really a before. So only if I want to use that tablet only mode. So I simply insert the additional URL command of end mode equals tablet. Excuse me. So again, what I've said at the end there, so by using the end mode equals tablet, this disables the keyboard entirely and the mouse, and everything is done via the touch screen. That includes the logging out as well when you're done. So all the navigation is done via the touch screen. Because it's difficult for Greentree at a browser level to control those hybrid devices because they've got keyboard and touch screen, by introducing a tablet only or device, we're setting that preferences to be touch only. Therefore, the display issues and various messages that come up are now eliminated. So of course, on my example there, if I use the first one, it's as per normal, I can use the keyboard.
but for people who have got those hybrid devices, you need to decide which one you're going to use and therefore set up at a customer and train them accordingly as to which shortcut, favorite, etc. they're using and how that works. So bug fixes. The release notes cover what these are in detail, but as on the first slide, I talked about what they were. So there's some in accounts payable, accounts receivable, HR payroll, CRM, sales orders, purchase orders, and kind of the ones that fall into the heading of various. So it's just around some workflow desk issues, JC Proforma invoice. But anyway, read the release notes to get those details. There's also a minor web view one there as well. Okay, so this one was fairly brief, but there's another couple of videos that go alongside this release. Query Designer and also on STP version 3. But this is the standard feedback that you're probably used to seeing at the end of all these videos. Feel free to reach out to me if you've got any questions, you want anything in more detail. But yeah, I hope you found this video useful and to cover the bits that are in the release of 2019.3. So thanks for your time. Cheers.